put the weight of someone else's happiness on me, on a child, on an 11-year-old. It's not okay. Hey you, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Jenny and I'm a licensed psychotherapist. Today we're breaking down Disney Pixar's Inside Out, and we're also going to talk about how to cope with emotions and why it's important to do so. If you're interested, keep on watching. As always, if you have not watched this before, please be aware that there will be spoilers, but I'm thinking you've seen this since it came out in 2015. The movie opens with a newborn smiling and one of the characters, Joy, being there and happy and watching the whole scene. And then the baby starts to cry and Sadness, another character, is introduced. When the baby starts crying, Joy immediately gives Sadness a look and tries to push her out of the way so that way she can make it stop. She wants the baby to be happy. So Joy's over there pressing all kinds of buttons. And these characters or emotions are essentially living inside of the baby's body, inside of the baby's head. To me, it kind of looked like they were in her mouth because I saw some teeth. I don't know. What do you think? And since they are inside of the baby, they essentially grow with her. And the baby's name is Riley. Another emotion, fear, is then introduced, and their job is to keep Riley safe. Disgust is also introduced, and she shows up right now when Riley is trying new foods. And lastly, anger is introduced, and anger is sort of introduced like an advocate, someone who is there to right a wrong. Like, for example, in the beginning of the movie, you can see the parents and the father saying, if you don't eat this broccoli, no dessert. So then anger comes in like, hold on. What? Let me advocate for myself. And you can see Riley crying after anger goes in and takes over the little board. So one theme I noticed throughout the entire movie, well, throughout most of the movie, is Joy's need for Riley to always be happy no matter what is happening in her life. And as you can imagine, my little therapist brain is going, this is not good. This is not realistic. Joy really doesn't understand sadness and its place in the world. Joy feels like sadness is just negative. That's it. Just negative. And you can see that because Joy is clearly frustrated whenever sadness comes into the picture. Whenever sadness touches one of those core memory balls and turns it blue, Joy is there like wagging her finger and trying to push sadness out of the way to make sure that doesn't happen again, to stop Riley from being sad. You can also see the different islands of personality. This is what makes Riley Riley. For example, there's Goofball Island, there's Friendship Island, there's Family Island, there's Honesty Island, and there's also Hockey Island. And you can see throughout this movie, Joy is working very hard to make sure that Riley is happy no matter what is happening. And it's a little bit frustrating, a little bit annoying, I must admit. And honestly, things are mostly, I guess, perfect for Joy until Riley turns 11 and a big shift happens in her life. The parents put their home up for sale and they move to San Francisco. All of the emotions are now concerned, like what's going to happen? What's Riley going to do? What are we going to do? How can we keep her happy with this big old change? She's leaving her friends behind. She's leaving hockey behind. She's leaving her comfort zone behind. She's leaving her home behind. What is going to happen in this new state? And you can also see how badly Joy needs that perfection, how badly she wants Riley to be so happy that she even lies sometimes to make sure it happens. Joy will do anything to prevent the other emotions from coming onto the mood board. And it's great to be optimistic. It's very important, but it's also very important to allow ourselves to feel our emotions. Obviously, Riley is 11. She's not going to be perfect at managing her emotions, but it's important that we let children or people know that it's important to feel their feelings, because sometimes if people are angry, if people are sad and they're not processing it, it can come out negatively. If we truly just sit there and try to be perfect, try to be smiling all the time, it's not realistic. And you shouldn't even waste your time trying to be perfect, because it's not going to happen. We're all going to make mistakes. And we need to hold each other with compassion. We need to hold each other with care. We don't know everything. Another prominent theme I noticed was sadness trying to be a part of Riley's life. Sadness was acknowledging that Riley should be sad during these moments. Riley should be sad they're moving. Riley should grieve the loss of her childhood home. There are moments in life that make a person cry, and that's totally normal. There are people that walk around, they don't cry, they don't scream, they don't squeal, and that's very sad. There are moments in life where we should say, I need to cry, and that's okay. I need to go sit outside and get some sun and cry. That's okay. It's completely normal and very, very healthy. But of course, Joy was there like, no, back up. This is your circle. Stay in there. Don't bother me. I really felt like Sadness was self-aware because of this. When she was sad, she was able to slow down and process those emotions. She was able to slow down and say, this is what made me sad and this is why it made me sad. There's no need to rush that process. And when you're sad and I say call a friend, talk to them about it, it doesn't mean that this friend is going to have the solution. But honestly, just talking about it and being able to cry it out and letting the tears flow, all of that is really therapeutic and it's really essential for us. There's a point in the movie where Joy talks about, we've been through hard times, Riley, we can do this. And I feel like this is important where she should be like, okay, this is what we've been through and this is exactly what we did to get through it. But of course, Riley is 11. She's very young. Is she going to really remember, oh, I did some deep breathing when I was 5 and I lost my stuffed animal? No, she's probably not. Another big thing I noticed, Joy does not. She refuses to use these listening ears. She refuses. She doesn't like to do that. Other emotions are trying to give their input, but she's there like, no, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. Like, if there is a Joy hater, it's me. If there's someone that couldn't deal with Joy all the time, it's me. If you really sat and think about it, it doesn't make sense for Riley to be happy during such a big transition in her young life. She's never been through a big change like this, so it wouldn't make sense for her to be smiling all the time. It just doesn't make sense. At this time, she's also hearing her parents fighting.
We've only got capital to last a month, maybe 2. If we can't find investors by then, we're going to have to lay...
She's also hearing that her father may have to lay off people because the job is not what they expected it to be. Well, his company is not what they expected it to be. You know, they may have to let these people go. I mean, this is not something that is easy to hear as a child. You hear problems, so you were like, oh my God, you're scared, you're nervous, you're sad. So it's important to let those emotions, talk about them, feel them out. Joy just wanted Riley to be happy and to have happy core memories and not reality. She didn't want Riley living in reality. Even when they get to the house after they move, Riley goes up. The house doesn't look the best or to what she was used to in her past. So she goes up to the room and the room is not ready yet. They don't have their things. The van is not there yet. Another stressor, you know? So then here's Joy trying to put like, oh, this is what the house could look like. But it doesn't look like that yet. It's important to say, okay, I'm sad that the room doesn't look like mine from the other home. And this is what it could look like. But give Riley that time to process the house not looking like what she thought it would. Joy is just not allowing Riley to live in that present moment. And it's important that she does. The other emotions are also at this time trying to provide Riley with different ways to cope. Again, Joy's there like, move, move, move. Let me make her happy. These are happy memories you've had before. Think about this. Doesn't make sense. I also think this is a toxic trend to try to smile whenever you're sad and not to allow yourself to be sad. And to make matters worse, at this time, Riley's mom comes into the room.
All this confusion, you've stayed our happy girl.
I'm like, hey, your dad's going through a lot and I'm happy that you've been showing him that you're happy. So I felt like she just kind of put the weight of her father's happiness onto an 11-year-old child. You cannot do that. You cannot put the weight of someone else's happiness on me, on a child, on an 11-year-old. It's not okay. What do you think about that? I felt like that was a little icky. Like, it was important for the father to be stressed and to show Riley that he was stressed. But maybe what the father could have done was show Riley how he copes with the stress, how he uses grounding technique to ground himself, how he uses the breathing techniques when he's upset, you know, to be a good role model for Riley. Another theme I noticed was that sadness was always right. And y'all, this is a Sadness Stan YouTube account. A Sadness Stan YouTube account, okay? Sadness was always right. When she's sad that she moves, her mom is like, okay, be happy so your dad could be happy. Joy is trying to make her look at the bright side of everything. She's also not processing those feelings. So when she gets to school and the teacher asks her to introduce herself, she stands up, she talks, and then she's talking and talking, and then she starts crying. That's what happens sometimes. You know, she could either cry or she can get angry. That's what happens when you've been holding on sadness for so long. It could turn into something like crying or anger. How it came out for her in that specific moment was crying. And other times, when she was at the tryouts for the hockey team, it came out as anger. So that's what happens when you have all these pent-up emotions that you're not processing. It's going to come out in a way that maybe you didn't want it to come out. Crying is important. Crying is great. But maybe Riley didn't want to cry in front of her classmates. Being angry is okay. But she got angry and she stormed out. She threw the hockey stick on the floor and she stormed out. Is that an appropriate way to cope? Yeah, it could be appropriate for a child, but it's also important to allow that child to express their emotions about certain things at home, especially big things, so that way they can learn to cope with it and ground themselves. I'm not saying if you model this, the child is always going to be perfect. Of course not. But it's important to show them other ways of doing it, other ways of coping and grounding. And after all this happens at dinner time with her parents, Riley's mom is trying to say, find out what's going on, trying to talk to her. Of course, Riley's not listening. And the father, off in his own little world, Riley's mom looks at him like, hey, help me out here, help me out here. And of course, her own emotions are on there like, ugh, we can't stand him, he's annoying, whatever. Like he's not listening, he's not paying attention. And finally, the father gets the hint and tries to help correct Riley or try to help, fix what's going on. And it turns into a big blowout because Riley's like, you're not listening to me, you're not understanding, you're not seeing me. So then Riley gets upset, and of course, without the other emotions, she's not able to use them. She only has fear, disgust, and anger left. So she blows up. The father blows up like, it's not okay, young lady, like that typical father response to go to your bed. It's not okay to talk to your mother like that. It's not okay to talk to us like that. But had the father taken a step back and maybe utilized his other emotions, maybe they could have come to a resolution where he listened to what Riley was saying, where he observed what Riley was going through. Later on in the movie, it does show that Riley's father goes to try to talk to her, but she still wasn't ready at that time. And when I say Sadness is always right, she is truly always right. Later on in the movie, when Sadness and Joy kind of get stuck in a dark place, they end up meeting Bing Bong. And Bing Bong is like, okay, let's take a shortcut. Sadness is like, well, I don't think that's a good idea. Joy's like, come on, let's go, girl. Like, you're doing too much. Let's go. And guess what? Sadness is right. And when to get out of that situation, who helps them to get out of the situation? Sadness. I don't know if y'all noticed that pattern. Let me know in the comments. There's even a point in the movie where Bing Bong is sad and he's talking about his feelings, and Sadness is sitting there affirming him, validating him, and saying, yeah, I understand, you're right. And he cries through it, and Joy is over there like, no, stop, you're making him cry, whatever. But he gets to talk to it, and guess what? He feels better.
Yeah, it's sad.
And that's when Joy kind of looks at Sadness with new eyes like, wow, so this is what you've been doing this whole time. This is what you could have been doing this whole time. And remember, all of these emotions are inside of Riley. So it's kind of like Riley having this awakening internal, like, oh, maybe I could be sad. I could be sad because look at this person. They were sad. They processed it. They talked about it. They were validated and they feel better. That's not so bad after all. Sadness is not so bad. Like I said, another pattern of Sadness always being right. When they're trying to figure out how to get back to the headquarters and all of that, Sadness is like, okay, Riley has gone to sleep. How can we wake her up? And Sadness is saying, let's scare her. But Joy's like, no, we're not scaring her. We're not doing that. That's not right. That's not nice. But of course, Joy has to always win. So Joy goes ahead and says, no, I'm going to do this. But I was so happy to see Sadness kind of stand up for herself in that moment after trying out Joy's idea and seeing that it was not happening. Riley was not waking up. And finally, Sadness breaks away from Joy. And Sadness is doing what she deems to be something that could work. She's practicing her idea, because sometimes you could be surrounded by people or things or situations where you feel like people are making decisions for you, all these decisions for you, but then sometimes it's like, okay, how can I step back and try something different? How can I step back and have the courage to try something different? And that's what Sadness did. And of course, guess what? She was right. There's a point in the movie where even Joy starts to allow herself to feel. Joy even cries. I was so happy to see that because she was so stressed out and trying to make sure Riley had this perfect childhood, perfect core memories, perfect everything, that she didn't realize that it's okay to cry. She had to learn that from Sadness. She also realized that included in those core memories, the family came to support Riley when she was sad, when she didn't score a goal when she was younger. The team came to support her. It showed her that it's okay to be sad because you have your loved ones, you have your community there to support and lift you up. And that's what's great about it. When you're sad, someone lifts you up. When someone else is sad, you lift them up. That's the whole point of being in community. And it really took her 11 years to see that. But again, Joy is Riley and Riley is a child. So developmentally appropriate for her to start having those different epiphanies at that time, if she's emotionally mature or if she is on the typical spectrum. It shows that with age comes maturity, comes understanding, comes compassion. So joy and sadness finally make it back to the headquarters. And joy looks like, wow, I should give these core memories to sadness because it's important that sadness is included in them. And she gives them to sadness, and you can see the balls that were once just a gold bright ball now be a mix of the gold and blue, and the blue representing the sadness, and understanding like, it's a part of life. Sadness is a part of life, and it's okay. So the movie ends with all the islands lighting up again and new islands coming into the fold. So now let's talk about how to cope with all of these different emotions that we experience. I mean, I couldn't talk and break down this movie without giving you some tips. Hello, it's a blooming life. We're always intentionally blooming and learning from these movies. So let's first talk about anger. Why is anger important and how can we cope with it? Anger is important because it's a natural emotion. It's what pushes us to advocate for ourselves, to advocate for people who cannot advocate for themselves. So it's an important emotion to have. Now, how do we cope with that anger? You learn your triggers. You learn to notice how your body is feeling when you're becoming angry. You understand and you accept that anger is normal. It's important that you deal with it in a way that won't harm other people, in a way that won't harm you. It's important to learn how to ground yourself. There's so many different grounding techniques, and if you need any, comment below and I'll help you with some resources. Moving on to sadness. Same thing with anger. Understand that it's normal to be sad. It's okay to cry. It's okay to take a day to get away from everything, but it's important not to stay in that isolation for too long. It's important to validate yourself, acknowledge what made you sad. It's also important to understand that this is very temporary. It's not going to be forever. Emotions are like waves. You have to ride them. You have to go through it. And also call a friend. And I'm not saying call them and tell them like, oh, this is why I'm sad. You don't have to say that just yet. You can call them and say, hey, I just need someone on the phone with me right now. I just need someone to talk right now. And one of my favorites, take a mindfulness walk. I love that. Okay, let's move on to fear. How can we cope with it? And why is it important? Fear is important because it keeps us safe. You know, we do things with the understanding that things are going to be hard. We're going to be scared. But fear is like kind of a way to protect ourselves. So again, validate and acknowledge your emotions. Learn to understand thoughts that are unhelpful and acknowledge them for what they are. Unhelpful thoughts, and they happen to all of us. It could also be beneficial for you to make a pro and con list. And it's also really, really important to stay in that present moment. What is happening currently? What is happening in the now? And understand that, hey, life is full of our mistakes. How can we learn from it and how can we move forward? And the last one was disgust. When it comes to disgust, it's important to understand your triggers. It's also important to be compassionate. And it's important to learn how to breathe through all of that. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you. As always, if you're interested, please do me a favor. Like, comment, and subscribe. This really helps me out. I look forward to hearing from you in the next video. Bye now.